A few weeks ago, something strange happened to me on the road. I'm Jake, 34, a long-haul trucker. I know these highways like the back of my hand. I took on a tough route for some extra hours, and everything felt normal at first. Late one night, I found myself on this lonely stretch of highway. The woods loomed close like they were waiting for me. I felt calm driving until the quiet started bothering me. I stopped at an old diner for coffee. Inside, it was mostly empty. I sat by the window, sipping slowly. That's when I felt it eyes on me. I looked around but couldn't see anyone. When I left, I spotted an unmarked truck parked outside. The engine was running. I thought I saw a figure inside, peeking at me. My heart raced, but I brushed it off as paranoia. Back in my truck, I turned on the radio. Static filled the air, and I swore I heard whispers mixed in. I thought it was a weak signal. I turned up the volume, hoping it would go away. It didn't. I felt a chill crawl up my back, but I shook it off. I had to keep my mind clear. The next night, I stopped at a rest area. The silence was so thick, it felt wrong. I stepped outside, letting the cool air hit my face. That's when I heard my truck's doors creaking open. I ran back, checking the locks. Everything seemed alright, but that feeling stayed. I jumped back into the cab and found a note on the passenger seat. It was a child's drawing of my truck surrounded by dark figures. I stared, unsure if I should laugh or be scared. I didn't know what to think. On the third night, I was exhausted. Driving was all I wanted to do. I looked into the trees and saw shadows darting. They were fast and flickered, maybe my mind playing tricks. I tightened my grip on the wheel. It felt cold enough to make the hair on my arms stand up. Suddenly, the radio cracked. A voice came through, clear as day, "Why are you so afraid?" I nearly swerved off the road. I looked around, there was nothing. Just the dark woods on either side. I felt completely alone, but the fear wouldn't leave me. Then I heard a loud bang against the side of my truck. I whipped around, heart racing. Nobody was there. Just me and the quiet emptiness. My breathing quickened. Was I going mad on this never-ending road? The rest of the drive was a blur, and my thoughts spun wildly. I couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were always watching. What was out there in those shadows? What awaited me on this isolated stretch of highway? I just kept driving, hoping to find something familiar soon, but the night felt endless. That's when I realized maybe I wasn't alone after all. The fourth night came, and I thought after everything, I'd be ready for it. But the uneasiness hung around like an unwanted guest. I kept driving, eyes glued to the road. I told myself it was just exhaustion messing with my mind. Somewhere near a small mountain pass, I spotted a flicker of light ahead. It was odd, a light on an isolated stretch like this. As I got closer, I saw that it was a campfire. I squinted, trying to make out the figures around it. They were vague, shadowy forms moving like they were engaged in some kind of ritual. I felt a whisper of regret and curiosity pull at me. Should I stop? I debated it for a moment but decided against it. A chill swept through me as I drove past. The figures looked up, and I could swear I felt their eyes pierce through the windshield. I pressed the gas, heart pounding. It felt like I was fleeing from something I couldn't see. Just as I thought I was in the clear, the radio crackled again. I reached across to turn it off, but then I heard the distant voice again. "Help us!" It came through clear, tinged with an urgency that sent ice shooting down my spine. My hands gripped the wheel harder. Was someone in danger, or were they trying to lure me in? I shook my head and continued onward. My thoughts were racing. I couldn't make sense of anything anymore. It was just me, a truck, and the road ahead, but it felt like the darkness was closing in. Then I saw it, another shadow. This one darted across the road, right in front of me. I slammed on the brakes. The truck skidded, tires screeching, and I barely missed hitting whatever it was. It vanished into the trees. I sat there, breathless, trying to convince myself it was just an animal. The forest felt alive. It was as if something was playing games with me. I took a deep breath and pulled off to the side of the road. I needed a moment. The lights of my truck illuminated the trees, casting long shadows that twisted and danced. I stepped out, hoping the fresh air would clear my mind. That's when I heard it again. The soft crackle of the radio mixed with whispers. I walked back to the cab, palms sweaty on the door handle. The radio was on again. I didn't turn it on. I didn't even turn it back on. I climbed up into the cab, hesitating. "Help us," the voice seemed to enclose around me. I fumbled with the dials, trying to find the knob to turn it off, but it wasn't just noise. It was getting distorted and louder, a chorus of voices, each more desperate than the last, overlapping and echoing in my head. Suddenly, the door to my truck swung open. I jumped, heart racing once more. Nobody was there. I peered into the darkness beyond my headlights, expecting to see those shadowy figures. Nothing. The voice grew stronger now, mixing with the rustle of the wind. Before I could react, a different sound erupted. A child's laughter rang out in the dark. I froze. My stomach dropped because it wasn't just fear this time, it was a realization. I wasn't alone. I hadn't been alone since the first night. I turned off the radio, but the laughter lingered in the air, echoing among the trees. I felt my insides twist. As I sat there, frozen in the cab, I knew what I had to do. I had to find out who was out there. What was waiting in those shadows? And what had happened to the drivers before me? I took a moment to gather my thoughts. I was far too deep into this madness now. There was a heaviness in the air, a tension that felt electric. I couldn't just sit here. I had to confront whatever it was lurking outside, hoping that the answers lay hidden in the dark. Stepping out of the cab, I felt the chill seep into my bones. The laughter had vanished, leaving an echo that buzzed in my ears. I exhaled slowly, focusing on the shadows looming around me. My flashlight barely pierced the darkness, but I aimed it toward where I'd seen the last shadow dart. I called out softly, "Hello? Is anyone there?" My voice sounded tentative, swallowed by the vast night. For a moment, there was silence, and all I could hear was the wind rustling through the trees. Then I thought I heard a rustle nearby, close enough for my heart to skip. I turned the beam of light toward the sound. Nothing was there. Just trees. I scanned the area slowly, terror coiling tighter in my stomach. Then it hit me. What if I wasn't just dealing with whispers? What if those figures weren't just figments of my exhausted mind? My thoughts raced. Were those drivers before me trapped out here? And if I was somehow becoming one of them, could I escape? With my heart pounding, I walked a little deeper into the tree line, the beam of the flashlight flicking across branches that creaked as if they were whispering secrets. Every few steps, I felt watched. I turned to check behind me, half expecting to see someone emerging from the shadows. As I moved closer to the campfire, I noticed something flickering in the underbrush. With cautious steps, I approached. My breath caught in my throat. It was a child's toy, a rusted truck barely recognizable as a toy. My eyes widened, pulse racing. Had it belonged to the child I heard laughing? Before I could process it, I heard it again, a soft giggle, this time closer, coming from my left. I spun around, clutching the flashlight like a lifeline. "Who's there?" My voice was barely a whisper, barely strong enough to mask my fear. The darkness around me shifted, and the laughter turned into a soft, sing-song chant. It felt odd, almost mocking. I felt trapped, prey to this invisible entity. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew past, extinguishing my flashlight. In complete darkness, panic surged through me. I stumbled back, trying to turn on the flashlight again, but it wouldn't respond. I was blind and isolated. The shadows thickened like an encroaching tide. Then I heard them, a chorus of voices rising with urgency. Help us, echoed from every direction. Desperation clawed at my chest. I wasn't just a bystander, I was part of whatever this nightmare was. I needed to escape. Just as I was about to turn, I noticed a shape materialize in front of me, a child, small and shadowy, grinning. The hollow eyes reflected the light from the truck as if to say, "You're too late." The giggle rang out again, chilling me to the bone. The night had closed in, and I was no longer sure who needed help. I turned to run, but my feet felt heavy as if anchors had tied me down. Just before I broke into a sprint, the child pointed past me. "They're waiting." The whisper curled around me, as real as the wind that chilled my spine. I took off, propelled by fear, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the real horror was only just beginning. I stumbled over roots and rocks, my heart racing as I tore through the underbrush. I could hear the echo of that chilling giggle in my ears, trailing behind me like a physical presence. There was something unnerving about the child's smile, as if it held a secret I wasn't meant to know. Branches clawed at my jacket, pulling me back. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But I forced myself to keep moving, fueled by panic. I had to find my way back to the truck, to safety. The laughter morphed into a dull hum, indistinct and wrapping around me, guiding me to nowhere. Then, just like that, the night fell silent. It felt wrong, an absence of sound that screamed louder than any noise. I halted, desperate for a chance to gather my thoughts. I pointed my flashlight back in the direction I had come. The beam flickered back to life, but the shadows only seemed to grow deeper and more foreboding. I heard a soft rustling again, but this time, it felt deliberate, almost teasing. "Come play with us," a voice beckoned, laced with that same eerie chant. It was childlike yet ancient, and I felt the hairs on my neck stand up. "Who are you?" I yelled, my voice cracking. "What do you want?" The only response was the faint echo of laughter melding with whispered words. "Help us," it mocked, and I suddenly felt a rush of anger entwined with my fear. I had to push back. I wasn't going to succumb to whatever this was. I turned on my heel and charged away from the voices. But instead of the familiar path, I found myself in a small clearing. In the center stood an old wooden sign, half buried in the earth. "Lost Children's Hollow," it read. My stomach dropped. It was a warning. A sign of everything that went wrong here, a tale wrapped in sorrow and despair. I examined the area, desperate for any sign of safety. Then my eyes landed on something else. A makeshift shelter constructed from twisted branches and what looked like scraps of old tarps. It appeared abandoned, but my gut twisted at the thought of exploring it. A flicker of movement in my peripheral vision caught my attention. I whirled around, flashlight raised, and fell breathless at the sight of a line of shadows, not just the child, but more figures forming behind it. They were dressed in ragged clothing, their faces eerily familiar but blurred in my mind, as if I had seen them somewhere before. Each figure held hands, swaying lightly as if caught in a dance, eyes fixed on me. One of them stepped forward, a girl with tangled hair, and pointed at the wooden sign. "You'll stay with us," she sang, her voice sweet but laced with something sinister. I felt the air thicken, pressing against my chest. "No!" I shouted, retreating. But my legs felt leaden. They began to approach, their laughter growing louder, engulfing the night in a cacophony of sound. As I took a step back, tripping over uneven ground, I fell hard. A sharp pain lanced through my ankle as I skidded to the ground. I looked up, panic flooding my senses, the figures now closing in, their gaze unwavering. When I saw it behind the children was a faint glow, pulsing steadily through the trees. Hope ignited within me. If I could just reach it, maybe I could escape this madness. I scrambled to my feet, ignoring the pain as I bolted toward the light, but beneath the laughter, I could hear the faint echo of the chant repeating, "You can't leave us, you can't leave us." As I darted toward the glow, a new fear gripped me. What if the light led me deeper into their nightmare instead? The light flickered ahead, and I pushed myself harder. Each step felt clumsy as I limped through the darkness, pain shooting up my leg with every stride. The laughter was a relentless echo, pressing against my ears. I focused on the glow, desperate for it to be a way out. As I neared, details began to sharpen. The light emanated from an old lantern, leaning atop a large rock. Its flame danced, illuminating a small circle of ground around it. I stumbled forward, heart pounding, and reached for the lantern. It felt warm in my grasp, a striking contrast to the chill settling around me. "Stay with us," the voice broke in again, clearer now, almost pleading. My stomach twisted. I turned, shining my beam of light toward the shadows. The figures were closer, their faces partly visible in the dim illumination. There was a boy in a tattered shirt who looked straight at me, his gaze filled with an unnerving mix of innocence and malevolence. "Why do you want me?" I shouted, my breath coming out in ragged gasps. I realized I was shaking, but I refused to show weakness. "Because you can help us," the girl said, stepping closer. "You can find our lost toys. You can play." Each word dripped with a sweet, false charm that sent chills down my spine. "Your lost toys," I repeated, incredulous. "You're just children. Why do you need me?" "Help us remember," another figure piped up, and my heart sank as I caught a glimmer of recognition in its face. It was a girl from my childhood, someone I'd known long ago. I couldn't understand how she was here, among these figures. Desperation clawed at me. Could this really be happening? Were these children lost in some twisted version of a childhood game, or was I chasing something that wasn't real? The lantern flickered wildly as if reacting to my rising panic. "Stay away!" I yelled, brandishing the lantern like a weapon. The figures paused, their laughter fading into silence, replaced by a tense stillness. Moments stretched, each second feeling like an eternity. The flame in the lantern began to wane, as if sensing my fear. In that quiet, I glanced back toward the dark path I'd come from. I had to decide. Should I stand my ground or run deeper into the unknown? The glow and warmth of the lantern beckoned to me, but the children's eyes held something that spoke of danger. Then, as if responding to an unspoken command, they began to move again, edging closer, their smiles widening into knowing grins. "You can't leave us," they chanted once more in unison, soft but unyielding. The glow from the lantern flickered violently, and suddenly, the figures lunged. I turned and sprinted, adrenaline surging as I hooked the lantern onto my belt. Its light bobbed wildly, guiding my frenzied escape. I veered into the trees, the branches snapping back at me, all the while hearing their laughter behind me, distant but haunting. I couldn't stop. I couldn't look back. The deep woods shifted around me, the laughter mixing with whispers that promised to unravel my very thoughts. But then I caught a glimpse of something even stranger ahead, a dilapidated building that hadn't been there before. What's in there? I thought, slowing just enough to peer through a gap in the vines draping over its entrance. Then everything went dark. I stumbled, the darkness swallowing me whole. My body crashed against the hard ground, the lantern tumbling from my belt and rolling away, its light snuffed out. Panic surged as I felt the press of cool earth against my skin, the uneasiness wrapping around me like a heavy cloak. I pushed myself up, my heart racing. The silence was oppressive. I reached out, fingers brushing against the rough stones of the building's wall. It felt ancient, cold, with an unsettling stillness ensconced within its walls. I could only wait for my eyes to adjust. Minutes crawled by as I strained to hear any hint of the children's laughter, but only my heavy breaths broke the quiet. Suddenly, a soft flickering light caught my attention. I squinted toward it as I moved cautiously across the floor, kicking away debris and fallen leaves. Each step felt like an invitation to the unknown. The light danced farther into the gloom of the room, and I followed it, driven by both fear and curiosity. What if this was a trap? What if I was walking deeper into their game? But I had to know. I had to understand what was happening. As I made my way forward, the walls shifted, shadows elongating and shrinking in the dim light. The flicker grew brighter, revealing a dusty table in the corner. On it lay a collection of old toys, ragged stuffed animals, rusted toy cars, and a cracked doll that seemed to grin up at me in a way that sent a shiver down my spine. I hesitated. Were these the lost toys the children spoke of? My thoughts raced. Could they be trapped here, their memories tied to this place? I glanced around. The oppressive air thickened as a low, sorrowful whisper curled around me. "Help us," it pleaded in a voice barely above a whisper. "Who are you?" I found myself speaking into the void, desperate for a response that wouldn't send me running in the opposite direction. The flickering light dimmed, making the shadows stretch longer, suffocating the small glimmers of hope I so desperately clung to. "Help us remember," the voice came again, this time echoing off the walls. It sent spikes of nausea through me. I couldn't just stand there. This building felt alive now, filled with the essence of lost souls. I had to make a choice. Either reach out for those toys, or find a way to escape. Then a shattering sound broke through the tension, echoing from another corner of the room. I whipped around to see a dark figure emerging from the shadows. My breath caught in my throat. It was one of the children, a boy with sad eyes and a graze on his cheek, staring at me with a mix of longing and fear. "You have to help us," he said softly, stepping closer, "or they'll keep you here forever." Before I could answer, the light behind me flickered again, this time illuminating the walls. Scrawled across the plaster in faded, frantic handwriting were the words, "Forget us, or join us." My heart raced. I didn't even know what to make of it. What happened next was a blur as shadows twisted and flickered, and the boy reached for my arm. "Now you have to choose." And just like that, the room plunged back into darkness. I gasped as darkness enveloped me, my mind swirling. The air thickened, and I felt the boy's grip as he yanked me toward him. "You can't stay here," he urged, his voice trembling. "You'll forget everything." "Forget what?" I shouted, panic lacing my voice. But as the shadows began to twist around us, it felt like my words were swallowed whole. The boy didn't answer, he just looked back at me with an expression that made my stomach churn. "Please," he insisted, his hand gripping my wrist. "We have to escape before it's too late." I forced myself to listen, to think. My instincts screamed to run, yet the chill in the air held me captive. Then suddenly, the oppressive darkness shifted. Figures began to emerge, faces flickering into view, pale and gaunt. They stood behind the boy, their eyes empty yet filled with a heavy sorrow. "Join us," they whispered in unison, their voices merging into a haunting melody that sent shudders through my spine. I struggled against the boy's grip. "No." Before I could finish, the darkness swallowed my words. The room warped and twisted around me, and for a moment, I felt lost in a void, as though time itself had stopped. Just when I thought I couldn't bear it, the shadows receded. A door appeared at the far end of the room, a flicker of dim light spilling outward. My heart raced at the sight. "There." I pointed, feeling a surge of hope. "We have to go." The boy hesitated, glancing back at the shifting figures. "They'll try to stop us," he said, fear etched across his features. "But you have to trust me." Trust, the word made my chest tighten. I didn't know this boy, yet something about his eyes felt familiar. I nodded, summoning all my courage. "I'm with you." We took off toward the light, the cold breath of the shadows reaching for us, tugging at my clothes and skin. The whispers turned into screams, echoing around us in a symphony of despair. The figures lunged forward, attempting to grab us, but we pushed through, the light growing brighter with every step. I reached for the handle, but as I turned it, an intense heat washed over me. The room shook violently. The screams intensified, and I felt something tear at my mind, a pressure urging me to forget, to give in. "No!" I shouted, wrenching the door open. Light spilled in, bathing us in warmth. We stumbled forward, collapsing onto grass that felt real beneath me. I blinked against the brightness, and suddenly we were outside, the night cold and still. But it wasn't over. As we lay there, panting, the boy turned his haunted eyes on me. "They'll come for us," he warned, his voice shaking. "When the darkness falls again, we'll be trapped." I looked back at the doorway, now just a faint glow behind the trees. My thoughts raced. What had I just escaped? And what awaited me next? Just then, a chill ran down my spine, and I knew that the worst was yet to come. The moment we caught our breath, the silence felt suffocating. I lay on the grass, trying to process what had just happened. The boy kept glancing over his shoulder, as if expecting those shadowy figures to claw their way after us. "Where are we?" I asked, pushing myself up slowly. The world around us was dark, but the sky twinkled with stars. It felt peaceful, but dread still lingered in my gut. "Somewhere safe," he replied, though his voice lacked certainty. For now. I wanted to believe him, but the image of those gaunt faces loomed in my mind. "How do you know they won't find us here?" He hesitated. "I don't, but it's better than where we just were. At least out here, we can think." I nodded, but a sense of unease settled in. Questions spilled into my mind, each urging me to remember what I had just run from. What were those people? Why did they want us? His face clenched, shadows dancing in his eyes. They're lost souls trapped in that place. They want to pull others in to share their fate. Like a trap? I asked, still trying to connect the pieces in my head. Exactly. And they almost had you. You can't forget this. Remembering is vital. I shifted uncomfortably, the weight of his words pressing down. What do you mean, remembering? What am I supposed to remember? Just then, a rustle came from the trees nearby, and I froze. The boy's eyes widened. We need to move. Now. He grabbed my wrist again and pulled me to my feet. We stumbled away from the trees, my heart pounding in my ears. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I glanced back and caught a glimpse of something lurking in the shadows, a flicker of a figure. My breath quickened, and I followed the boy as he led me further into the dark. What did you see? He asked, urgency lacing his voice. I don't know. It was just something. I felt a shiver race up my spine. Was it them? Possibly. We can't stop. If they sense us, they won't let go. We pressed on, navigating through the dense underbrush. I could barely keep up, fear fueling my flight. The air grew thicker as we moved deeper into the forest, and soon I could hear the distant sound of rushing water. There's a river, he said, pointing ahead. We can hide there. As we approached the water's edge, a strange sensation washed over me. I glanced at the reflections in the dark water. But it wasn't just our images staring back, faces flickered in the surface, their mouths moving silently. I stumbled back, heart racing. Don't look. Just get in. The boy shouted, tugging me toward the riverbank. My pulse soared. It felt like the forest was closing in, branches clawing at us. Without thinking, I plunged into the cool water, splashing as I struggled to get my bearings. The boy joined me, and we ducked beneath the surface. We held our breath, eyes wide as we peered up towards the moonlit sky filtered through the rippling water. But then, a noise shattered the night, an echoing call from the trees, chilling my bones. "They've found us," the boy whispered urgently. I surfaced, panic welling up inside me as I clung to the boy's arm. "What do we do?" That's when I saw it, a dark shadow skimming across the water, gliding toward us with unnerving speed. Mark my words, it wasn't an animal. "Swim!" he yelled, and we both dashed toward the opposite bank, hearts pounding louder than the rush of the current. But even as we swam, I knew this was only the beginning. Something was waiting for us on the other side, and I feared it might not let us escape again. The cold water numbed my body, and I couldn't tell if that was a blessing or a curse. We swam hard, the current pulling relentlessly, but I focused on the boy's back as my guide. The dark shape in the water was relentless, closing in with an unnatural speed. "I can't do this," I gasped, my lungs burning. "Yes, you can," he shouted back, glancing over his shoulder. His fear only fueled mine. "Just a little further. We can't let it catch us." With every stroke, I pushed myself harder, adrenaline coursing through my veins. The faint light from the moon offered little comfort, but I needed to reach the bank before whatever that thing was reached us. The water was deep and treacherous. I felt something brush against my leg, a chill that shot through my body. "Go! Go!" I yelled, panic clawing at me as I kicked harder. Finally, the muddy shore came into view. I burst through the surface, lunging for the bank as waves crashed around me. But before I could pull myself entirely out of the water, the boy's hand shot out, gripping my wrist and pulling me up with him. We collapsed on the bank, gasping for air. I turned back to the water, expecting to see the monster rise up like some mythological beast. But there was nothing, only ripples that slowly faded into stillness. My heart raced as confusion washed over me. "What was that?" I panted, scanning the shadows along the river. "Not everything in the dark wants to be seen," he muttered, wiping water from his face. I didn't know what to make of that. The woods around us felt alive, twisting shadows dancing in the dim light. My mind swirled with questions, but I wasn't sure where to begin. "What do you mean? Why are we in this mess? Aren't we safe yet?" His expression shifted, weighted by a burden I couldn't see. "We can't stay here. They can sense fear, and we've just served them a course of it." He stood up, reaching out to help me rise. "We need to keep moving." Stumbling to my feet, I grabbed his hand for balance. "What do we need to find?" "Answers," he said. "You need to remember everything you can." I hesitated, racking my brain for bits and pieces, but dread filled the spaces where memories should have been. "I don't understand. How can I remember when?" Before I could finish, another noise erupted from the trees, harsh and grating. My heart dropped. It was close, too close. "Run!" the boy shouted, grabbing my hand again as we dashed deeper into the woods. The sound was relentless, a chorus of whispers tickling the edge of my hearing. Voices twisted through the trees, sinister and confusing. I could feel their eyes on us, a weight pressing down. Suddenly, we broke through the trees and stumbled onto a narrow dirt path. A flash of movement caught my eye, and I swung around just in time to see a figure slip between the trees. Was it friend or foe? "Did you see that?" I gasped, panic surging again. "Yes," he replied, eyes wide with urgency. "And it's not done with us yet." As we darted down the path, something pulled at my mind, a realization, perhaps a memory I had yet to uncover. I felt adrenaline pumping, but a new sense of urgency gripped me. I needed to understand why all this was happening, or risk losing my mind. Then everything went dark around us. A sudden fog enveloped the path, obscuring our way forward. I could barely see the boy beside me. I stumbled, nearly tripping over an unseen root. "What's happening?" I shouted, fear tightening my throat. "I don't know," he replied, his voice strained. "Stay close. We can't get lost here. And as the fog thickened, I realized that answers would not come easily. Something was waiting for us, lurking in the darkness, and fear pulsed through me like a living thing. In that moment, I knew my fight had only just begun. The fog hung thick as I grasped the boy's hand, trying to keep him close. The air felt heavier, each breath a struggle. "What's out there?" I shouted, panic creeping into my voice. The boy didn't reply, he just pulled me forward, deeper into the obscurity, his eyes darting to every flicker of shadow. Suddenly, a low, rumbling sound broke through, vibrating my chest. It felt alive, a mix of whispers swirling around us. "They're coming," the boy murmured, glancing back. "Don't stop." We moved faster, but I could feel the presence of something behind us, the shadows seeming to stretch and bend toward our retreat. The murmuring voices escalated, a cacophony of desperation blending into the chilling words, "Help us, join us, why do they keep saying that?" I panted, fear clawing at my throat. "Because they want you to remember," he urged, dragging me forward. "What did you forget, Jake? You have to try." I stumbled, and the fog shifted, providing a fleeting glimpse of the path ahead. Fragments of memories came flooding back, faces from my childhood, laughter echoing from a backyard, a summer filled with carefree days. But just as quickly, they slipped away, lost to the thick mist. It's all jumbled. Focus. His grip tightened. Think harder. We broke into a clearing, and the fog receded slightly, revealing a small circle of trees. In the center, a flickering light pulsed faintly, illuminating what appeared to be a weathered trunk, an old toy box, much like the one I had when I was a child. My heart raced. "That looks start there. Open it," he urged, desperation lacing his tone. Swallowing hard, I approached the trunk. The flickering light danced around it, urging me to remember. I hesitated for just a moment before lifting the heavy lid. Inside were toys, old, worn, some broken. A rusty fire truck, a faded teddy bear, scattered pieces of once beloved objects that seemed to pulse with energy. "What is this?" I breathed, reaching out to touch an old teddy bear. "Those are their toys and yours," he said softly. "They're tied to you. They need you to remember who you are." As I picked up the rusty fire truck, a flash of memory struck. I saw myself playing in the yard, my mother watching, laughing. The word slipped out, igniting a spark deep inside me. The joy was tinged with something darker. Where had that innocence gone? "Yes," the boy exclaimed, his eyes brightening. "Feel it. Let it come back." The moment I clasped the bear, a rush of warmth enveloped us, pushing back the encroaching darkness. "Help us," the voices turned from pleading to something more sinister. "They want to take you." My heart raced as a shadow broke through the trees, a figure cloaked in mist, its outline distorted, merging with the fog. Something ancient and terrifying lurked just beyond the light of the trunk, ready to claim me. Before I could react, the boy grasped my shoulder. "We can't stay. It knows you're here." We dashed back toward the path. The whispers had morphed, they were no longer a scent of childhood but a haunting realization of loss of memories, loss of self. We ran, the air around us thickening, the dark figure stalking closely behind. The weight of its presence pressed down, as if the shadows themselves had come to life, reaching out with icy fingers. "Help us, join us, no." I roared, frustration spilling out as I pushed against the rising panic. The boy's hand tightened around mine. The path narrowed, branches clawing at us as we sprinted, breathless and terrified. Ahead, the path started to split. "Which way?" I gasped, glancing back at the figure launching from the trees with unnatural speed. "The bridge. If we can make it across." Without thinking, I veered left toward a wooden bridge ahead, its beams covered in moss and age. As we sprinted across, the ground felt unstable, the sounds of the river crashing below a terrifying reminder of the churning chaos. "Keep going. the boy shouted. Just as we reached the middle, I dared to glance back. The dark figure loomed at the foot of the bridge, shadows swirling like a tempest. "You can't escape," it howled, its voice echoing in my ears, sending a shiver down my spine. I jolted forward, fear propelling me to the other side. We burst from the bridge, collapsing in the tall grass. The silence engulfed us, the moonlight bathing us in a surreal glow. Did we lose it? I asked, panting, desperately seeking some reassurance. But the boy's face was somber. "Not yet. They'll find us. You have to remember." I shook my head, overwhelmed. "I can't. What am I supposed to remember? I didn't even know what happened." He looked at me, eyes wide with urgency. "Think. The toys, your past. Remember what it felt like before it was all taken away." In that moment, a wave of images rushed to my mind: the laughter of friends, the warmth of home, a bedroom filled with toys, but mixed in were flashes of darkness, twisted figures lurking in corners, laughter morphing into cries of despair. "Jake!" The boy grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to meet his gaze. "You have to push through. You can't let them take you. This is all connected." As I concentrated, each memory unfolded like an old film reel, and my heart began to beat steadily. The bear. I suddenly remembered, tightening my grip on the object in my hand. I had left it behind the last day I played in that yard, a symbol of all that innocence, all that joy before it was shattered by fear. "I'm here," I said, determination coursing through me. I remember what it means to be whole." The wind shifted as we both stood, shadows dancing along the fringe of the grass. "Now we have to face them," I said, resolve surging through me. "We can show them they can leave too." In that moment, I felt the weight of their sorrow. The figures were not just shadows, they were lost children like me, trapped between memories and despair. I took a step forward, pulling the boy with me, heart pounding in anticipation. The edge of the darkness grew closer as I faced the shapes lingering in the shadows. "You can be free," I shouted, my voice echoing in the stillness. "You don't have to be trapped anymore." For a moment, only silence surrounded us. Then, the dark figure stepped forward, its features slowly coming into realization, a reflection of lost innocence and pain. "We don't remember," it whispered, its voice crackling. I felt the boy behind me draw a breath. "But you can. Remember with us." The stillness broke as more shapes began to emerge. "Help us," their voices melded in a chorus, the need palpable in the air. As we stood together, I felt the warmth return, the edges of fear being pushed away. The shadows swayed as if caught in a gentle breeze, and for the first time, the boy smiled. "You've done it. You've opened the door." But as more shadows surrounded us, I couldn't shake the feeling that the fight was far from over. The path ahead fluctuated between light and dark, and the air felt charged. "I don't know how to help them," I admitted, knowing deep down that I was just as lost as they were. "Just be the light," the boy said softly, a calm strength radiating from him. And so, as we moved forward together, the uncertainty remained, yet I held on to the flicker of hope that maybe this time, we would find our way. Sometimes, even as darkness loomed over us, the flickering light hinted at memories waiting to be uncovered, and I was ready to seek them out. I knew the haunting whisper of abandonment lingered in the shadows, but I also understood that I wasn't just another lost soul in a cycle of despair. I was determined to break free, no longer afraid. What happened next only time would tell. But I would face it, finding the light within the darkness. And as the moon hung high above, I knew that my road on this endless highway was just beginning.